Hello, welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Layla and today I'm going to be talking about deferring medical school. Although it can be transferred to pretty much any course you're planning on taking at uni or college or whatever you're doing in life. Yeah, consider this deferral 101. Timestamps will be in the description because I tend to ramble. Just jump ahead. It's fine, I won't be upset. Anyway. Yeah, so if you're not entirely sure what I'm talking about when I say deferring, it means that you apply in one application cycle, intending not to start in the next cohort, but the one after that. So if you get a spot, it's essentially secured for you and you don't think about it again until you start. Yeah, so I'm just going to talk about my experience because I deferred medical school. So I've had very mixed thoughts about it over the time and I'm just going to go through pros and cons. I applied in the 2019 cycle, starting in 2021, still like 7 months ahead of me, and I've battled with it in my head whether it was the right thing to do. However, hindsight doesn't do anything. Regrets are stupid and pointless and I'm not going to waste my time on it. But if you're contemplating it, maybe this video will help you in some way. So timeline on my part, I was applying in 2019. So summer 2019, I was studying for the UCAT. End of summer, I took the UCAT. October was the application deadline. Went to interview in the beginning of 2020 and then had my place around March. So almost a year now I've had my offer. And yeah, I don't start until September 2021. So I studied neuroscience as my first degree. I got to know a lot of other people who kind of decided that the clinical kind of side of the medical sciences was for them, and so were applying to medicine or other healthcare professional things. And nobody was considering applying for deferred entry. If you told like 18-year-old me you're gonna get your degree and then apply again, and the second time you apply you're gonna apply for deferred entry. So I ended up starting, or I will end up starting medical school like 2 years after I graduated my first degree. I was always like, I just want to get started, I just want to dive in. There are so many kind of positive aspects of deferring, and I think nobody really considers that because they're like, well, medicine is a really long career, it takes a really long time to get to the point where you're even working, and then a really long time after that to actually build up to the point where you're a consultant, or I forget what they call it in America, but you know. And yeah, I just want to kind of myth bust, hopefully give an unbiased view on it. Would I have done it differently had I known what I knew now? Let's just go with that. Myth busting. I actually didn't know you could even defer medical school. I thought it was something that you get your place or you don't, and if you get your place you go. But I deferred medical school. It's a thing. First myth, it's more competitive. It is exactly the same level of competitiveness. You don't have to have exceptional UCAT grades and exceptional grades. More complicated. It is in no way more complicated. It's literally just a button that you press on your UCAS application. It's considered in the exact same way, through the exact same system, but I would say phone the medical school to make sure that their university specifically doesn't consider things differently for deferral applicants. I haven't heard of any that have. The ones that I was considering applying to, none of them had any sort of procedure that was different. In fact, a lot of the people that are interviewing you don't even know that you're applying for deferred entry. Third thing, this is the one that I was struggling with. Does it make me appear unsure about medicine? Because medicine isn't something you can mess around with. Like, if you're doing it, you're in it for the long haul. It's a lifetime commitment. It's a vocation. I won't lie, I wasn't as sure at the point where I was applying, which is a weird place to be, because when you're contemplating something that's so heavy, you want to be that like 100% sure. But there are like 100 different reasons someone might defer. It could be a financial thing. They need to save up and they know that they won't be able to finance it if they just jump in. It could be a personal thing where you've got like family things going on. Maybe someone's really unwell and you need to care for them and focus on that. It might be like a health thing. You're going through some sort of treatment and you need to wait it out until you're recovered. There are literally so many reasons why you might defer, and it's not anybody's business to pass judgment on people that are deferring. It doesn't say anything about you. And to be honest, if you are taking that time because you want to consider it more thoroughly and you want to make sure that some other career that you've been kind of taking part in and testing the waters or whatever, that's probably a good thing, because then you'll go in with kind of a heightened sense of, this is definitely for me. I don't think I could go to medical school not being 100% sure, and you shouldn't feel pressured to make such a long-term commitment prematurely. Anyway, done with that rambling. Pros. Pro number 1, you can enjoy the concept of designing yourself an incredible gap year. I was definitely getting very excited about all the different plans I had. I was like, I'm gonna go to Africa and volunteer for 3 months, and I'll spend 6 months in Vietnam teaching English, and I'll travel Southeast Asia after that and be able to save up money because I'll be teaching as well on the side. And obviously it has not gone that way. Obviously, anyone who's planning to defer from now, the world is starting to heal, albeit phenomenally slow. Painfully slow. However, in the future, you'll probably be able to enjoy your gap year, unlike me sitting at home. Tick things off your bucket list and make sure you don't have any unfinished business when you start medical school, because realistically, if you're taking a gap year before medicine, it's probably the last time you're gonna have a significant chunk of time to do anything in quite a while. Not that you won't have summers and things like that, but they get a lot shorter, and there's also some external pressures, maybe internal, to kind of get internship experience or experience in a lab or wherever else that you're thinking might help you. And so a gap year is great. Anyway, number 2, you've got freedom in your application from having to be like realistic about where you apply. You don't have to do that whole safety net thing. That's definitely not what I did the second time round. So first time I applied, I was actually in 4th year doing neuroscience, and I applied tactically. I applied to unis that I thought were likely to take me based on their stats and their history and their requirements on their website, and I looked really deeply into it. I was like, okay, well, that uni normally takes people that have less than I have, and so I will apply there. Still didn't get in after 2 interviews. But the next year when I was applying, because I knew I was applying for deferred entry, I was just thinking, if I don't get into one of these schools, I'm just gonna go apply tactically next year, and I would still start at the exact same time that I had intended to, if that makes sense. The second time I applied, I actually ended up being a lot more kind of pie in the sky. What are the unis like I really want to go to? And so I applied to 4 unis that were like a bit far-fetched, but I got into one of them, so it worked. However, if you don't, you've still got the safety net of next year you can reapply and, you know, hopefully improve your application without it taking up your entire gap year. The third one is that you've got the time to kind of consider all other avenues that you've got in your head that might come up again later. If you've got another career that you're thinking, oh, you know what, I would really like to pursue that, go and try it and see what it's like in real life. And if you're still thinking about medicine, then it probably just consolidates in your head that medicine is for you. I absolutely loved neuroscience. My entire last semester was a lab-based dissertation project, and I loved it. I loved it so much. I really always thought, no, I'm not a lab person, that's not going to be my life. I ate my words because honestly it was so stimulating. You use your brain, you are working with people all day every day, different people from different departments, and the job that I was doing was not that at all. It was like running workshops for IT people. I don't want to think of medicine as like a death to the travelling life. It's not that at all. If you watch That Medic, you'll know that. But I was just like, I want to spend the next year and a half just like seeing as many places as I possibly can and earning money. That job was allowing me to do that, and I was still planning on taking time after that to kind of do other things. Number 4, got time to save up. Depending on the levels of help you've got from kind of family, or different people are in different circumstances, and it might be that you have to fund it yourself. A gap year definitely helps with that, and so if your priority during that gap year is just to save up as much as you possibly can, I think that's a good use of your time. It can be quite stressful to think about being a medical student and working at the same time. I hope to, at least for the first year or 2, but realistically I don't know what it's like because I'm not there yet. Number 5, if you want to, you can get a head start. It's not something that I'm personally doing. I've not got my head in the textbooks. I don't know how much of my previous degree I'm hoping I will have remembered, because obviously I had a lot of the basis of medicine. But you know, if it's something that you're really concerned about is having kind of like a background knowledge, or maybe you're coming from another degree, or like if you don't have a lot of biology knowledge. Yeah, I don't know how many people do that. I hope not that many, because I don't want to go and be like, what have I done? And the 6th pro that I came up with is that you can focus on yourself. And this is a big thing that, like, when I was doing my first degree, I was the busiest person ever. The busiest person most of my friends knew, and I like it that way. It did mean that I wasn't taking that time for self-care, learning myself in terms of listening to my body. You can learn recipes, you can start something. I don't think that if I hadn't lost my job, I would have started this, nor my blog, and they've been like incredible learning experiences for me. You can pick up a new skill, hobby, like work out what kind of lifestyle you hope to lead when you start, because it's really hard to take time for introspection when you're that busy. Yeah, I'd say it's an opportunity for that, to kind of hone in on yourself, reflect, and then hopefully be your best self when you start. So, cons. I've got a few. So number 1, you might end up resenting the time taken. So if whatever it is that you're doing in that year stops becoming meaningful to you, or you're not fulfilling the gap year dream that you expected to, it can start to become something that you regret. I don't regret anything in general, or try not to, because I do think there's some sort of other purpose that I might not have thought of. For example, I might not be traveling, which is kind of one of the main reasons that I took the gap year. I started something new. I learned something about myself. And, you know, ideally don't resent things that you've done that you decided logically at some point in time. There was a reason you made that decision. Just trust yourself. But, you know, it's not something that everyone's used to kind of curbing and controlling in that way. Number 2, if you decide to apply more ambitiously and you don't get a spot, it means that you have to reapply, and that's more time out of the gap year that you'd plan to take, especially if you're trying to kind of like improve your stats in terms of the UCAT. If you need more like shadowing experience, or if you're resitting, that is extremely time consuming. And so your gap year might not end up being all that. I think most of these cons have caveats because I don't like to regret things. Number 3, something could happen to interrupt your gap year dreams. For example, a global pandemic. You just don't know. You know, I think it's just about working with what you've got, making use of whatever's in your arsenal and the kind of cards you're being dealt. Number 4, you could change your mind somewhere along the way about accepting an offer to one place and wish that you'd accepted to somewhere else, or applied to different places. Many people apply to medicine like so many times over and don't get a place. It's great that you got a spot. Good job. Woo! How good is that autofocus, man? Got a new camera and it's amazing. Number 5, this is my last one. Medicine is a long-ass vocation. It's gonna take you a long time to become a doctor, and it's something that all of us have to accept. In America, everyone has a degree when they start. I have had thoughts of, oh god, like I'm gonna be so much older than so many people. But medicine isn't like that. There are so many people that come from different paths, so many people that have had different careers, so many people that have done degrees or haven't done degrees and are older, and I'm not worried about that anymore. But a lot of the time people think, like, why would I delay it by a year? But when you put it into perspective, how long the timeline is between when you start medical school and then when you're eventually a doctor, and it's just constant grind in between. A year's really not a big deal in any way, shape or form. And that's my perspective on it. Looking forward to going back to the hustle, but taking a break from the hustle is good for your mind, body, soul, and perspective on everything. Look after yourself, love yourself, life's good. Do I regret it? No. I've written down so many things on my, I'm not going to call it a script because that would be giving it too much credit, but I don't think it's even worth saying any of this. No, I don't regret it. Have there been days where I have regretted it? Yes. It's really hard to keep yourself motivated when you can't seem to get a job because COVID. You've got 7 months to wait and you have no idea if anything will happen in those 7 months. But you know, just try and keep yourself busy. I'm reading so much right now. Try and keep myself busy, and I'm loving it. This YouTube channel is keeping me busy. My blog will be as soon as I've relaunched it. It's just a good way to look into yourself and find ways to keep yourself busy doing the things you want to be doing rather than things that other people have told you to do. It's also made me a lot more creative in terms of I don't have a job now, so I'm having to find other ways to make money. Tutoring, little things online. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you're applying for medical school, here's a interview playlist, application playlist. Got you covered. And if there's anything in specific you have questions about, let me know in the comments or message me on Instagram. Put my Instagram here. I'll see you in the next one.